Hi, this is Evelyne Boren, and today I'm going to do a study of my charcoal sketch. And the scene is actually Black Mesa that has a little chapel in the foothills. There's some sage growing, and the main thing that I want to really concentrate on is that it is a big sky painting. So we could do it either horizontally or vertically, but for the sketch right now, I'm just going to do it horizontally. So I'm utilizing all these little photographs because they give me different ideas. This is the little chapel that's in the foothills. This is the Black Mesa. And these are some of the clouds that I want to go and capture. Now, before I start, I want to be sure I have the colors that I need, and I want to decide which colors I'm going to use on the color wheel. So basically, it's a dramatic sky. So I'm going to use a lot of the blues and greens. And then I go across and I'm going to use a red. So I have the green, Viridian green, cobalt blue. So triad colors, analogous colors, which is all blues with one warm. So I'm going to use a warm red with all the cool colors. So before I do that, I'm just going to do a little doodad here just to see if it's going to work. So this is my red. It's nice and bright. Remember, I can always dull it down if it's too bright. So then I have blue, because I want to have a little of the blue sky. So is this the blue I want? Looks pretty good to me. And then I can go and, let's say, use some of the green. Does the green go in there next to the red? And then if I want to go and make some dark clouds, I can use ultramarine red. So let me see if I can make a nice dark cloud. If I need to darken it more, I just add a little more red. Now, whatever is in the landscape also reflects into the sky, into the bottom of the clouds. So notice here, the blue is a pure blue. This is a mixed color that's going to end up being a darker gray. And so I think that's going to work. Now, what am I going to use for sage? Sage is a kind of a blue-green plant. And so I'm going to try this. This is sort of the color that I'm going to use for the sage green. And you know, I can put a little bit of that color also into the horizon of the sky. These are the colors that I think I can say what I want to see. So we're going to, from here, I'm going to go right over to the sketch. And let me just clean up my palette, get some clean water, and then we're going to start. Okay, this is my sketchbook. This is what I take out when I go on location. And it's actually Kilimanjaro, and it's like a 12 by 9. I find this very handy. It goes in my backpack. It's 140-pound watercolor paper, and it has also some plain paper if I want to make notes or do some other kind of sketches. Now, I've made my sketch here after the charcoal drawing that I worked out, and it's a sky painting. So I want to keep some of the clouds white. I want to bring in some southwest brilliant blue sky, and I'm going to start right now. So this is our little, just move this a little closer. Now, before I start, I want to point out one other thing. In the cloud painting, it's very important that we have a white. My favorite white is the Holbein gouache, and it seems to be a Holbein permanent white. It seems to be really, really a good white, better than any Winsor Newton or anyhow. I'm not trying to push it. That just seems to be the one that works for me. So I put that right in here. Okay, so whatever I want to leave white, I don't put any paper, water on it. And you know, this is going to be a very fast little sketch, so I'm not going to do a lot of wetting of the paper because that's not what this is all about. I'm just adding a little bit in here. There's a white building, a little church here, so I'm going to leave that white. I won't put any water on there. And so I'm going to start with the sky. Okay, so I'm going to start with a nice clean cobalt blue in here. And yeah, I'm going to make a little hole so still a little blue comes through. And now I can mix the cobalt blue with a little bit of my red. And I'm going to use very little water so I get a nice strong dark color. And then I can just use a little pure red in here. And I want to be sure that I've used enough pigment, because remember, in watercolors it just gets lighter as it dries. So this is pretty dark right now, so I'm going to take, I still have pigment on my brush. I'm going to go into the white and I'm going to run some white in here, and I'm going to just let it mush. Clean up my brush. I can go and soften the edges in some of these areas where there's some dark. Try not to lose all the white. That's the name of the game. And it's very easy to lose all the white. So I'm going to stop right here. You know, always pick this up, move it around a little bit. You know, if it sits there, if it gets harsh edges, we have a little spray bottle. I don't need to use it because it's kind of moving. I don't need to spray, but if you don't have enough water on there, keep a spray bottle and just use it to go and wet your paper again. So now I'm going to use the pure red, light red, and I'm going to put, this is the Black Mesa. In real life, it isn't red like that, but you know, I'm an artist, so I can make it any color I want. So I'm going to make it dramatic red, and it continues on beyond the little red house. There are going to be some trees in here breaking up the red, but for right now, I just want to be sure I have that, plenty of that. Then I can take some of this red and run it in here. And I can take some green and run it inside this red. Tone it down a little bit. And right now I can go and take the manganese. It's a manganese blue, and it's manganese blue hue, they call it. And I'm going to use that, and I'm going to start just putting some pure color in here. I want it quite light, so I'm adding a little white to it. This is a road. And then if there are clouds, some of this color is going to get a little darker. So I can do some of the sage in just a little darker blue. And this has a little sage right in the middle. Now there's a mountain right in here. So I'm going to make it out of ultramarine blue, and I can let some of the clouds kind of run in there. So, you know, they might want to just mush in here a little bit. Remember, I can always go back in it and do lots more of that. Lots of mushing. And then I'm going to put some green in here. These are some trees that are on the base of the Black Mesa. And I want them quite dark. And I'm going to save the shape of the little chapel, if I can. Light against dark, dark against light. These are little trees, little pinon trees, and I'm just let that dry for a minute because I want to put some darker, a big pinion in here, but if I put it in when it's too wet, it's all going to kind of mush. So just bear with me for a minute. I'm going to use a hairdryer and we get it dried. That should do it. Okay, so now I'm just going to make a large pinion in here. And you can make another one in here. This is the sunny part of the sage. And I'm going to do a little darker sage in the front because I want this cloud to actually throw a shadow over the foreground. So I'm making it a little darker. And I can take the same color that I've just used to make it darker, put a little red in there, and just throw a shadow over the road as well. And the little church has, one side is a little darker than the other. You need a little more color, you just run it in there. Okay, now how do I make the red, tone it down a little bit, I just add a little green into the red, and that kind of gives me a little more of a feeling of, so the sun's coming this way, so this side of the mesa is a little darker. So I still have the red coming through, but it isn't quite as dark now. And while this is still wet, I can go in here and scrape out some of the basically, that's about it. I don't have to do much more. This is just a sketch. So it gives me the feeling of what I would like to do. I can concentrate on making maybe these mountains a little darker. A little more red and blue. And then I can go in here and let them kind of mush in there a little bit. And take the white, run it in there. These clouds can go right on top of the mountain behind there. This is a little harsh in here, so I'm taking my little white and just run it in here. But don't lose all the white cloud. Okay, voila. So I'm going to look at that before I start the big painting and see if I need to make any changes. We can instead of the red, you could also use burnt sienna. This is a light red, but you could also use a darker red. So the thing is to just play around. So in this particular case, all we have is one color on the opposite side of the color wheel. Everything else is done in the blues and the greens and the white. So here's my little study for my big watercolor. And you know, with watercolors, each piece is going to look different. So just have fun with it. Don't try to copy the little study into a big painting, but just see what happens when you do a little study. You get to know the colors and you get to know which ones you want to use, which ones you want to use less, and that's why we do little studies. Then when we start the big painting, we have a better chance to really making a masterpiece. We have to start small, then we grow into a nice big painting.